Alright, this is a quick video, hopefully, to show the strengths and weaknesses of the TBX series. There's going to be a second video posted after this one showing how to have a tech fix the most glaring weaknesses of this model, which are ground loops, bad heater layout, and some stuff that likes to burn. Okay, but getting into it, we've got this traditional layout, pretty much exactly like that of the JMI era AC30s, and the circuit is almost that. In stock form, it's over filtered, but the general idea is there. The layout is kind of insane, and I get into that in the second video. But from the owner's point of view, you have the same thing. You have the vibe trim channel, the normal channel, the brilliant channel. Crucially, as I'll show later, this amp, like the JMI's, has the normal and brilliant channels out of phase. I'll show why that's cool. All the other ones, the hand-wired, the custom classic, the custom, these all have them in phase with each other, so they combine channels more like a Marshall. I'll show that in later videos. The amp has a standby switch, which the originals did not have, and the amp does not need it. On the custom classic series, they implemented standby in a very dumb way that really stresses the rectifier tube and kills the rectifier tube. This one is just copying from a Marshall 50 watt. It's a much better standby, doesn't nuke the rectifier tube, but it's not necessary. If you own one of these, there's no point in using it. Your tube rectifier takes longer to warm up than any other tube. So by the time any B plus is flowing out of this, all the other tubes are warm. So just switch the damn thing on. Now you're going to notice when this begins to make sound, and you'll see this standby light come on, that there's going to be a hum. And then that hum is going to dissipate. What that hum is, the output tubes are not warming up at the same to the same amount at the same time. So there's going to be a little imbalance in the output. There's not going to be the common mode noise cancellation that you get once everything's working. So here's the hum starting. And it's going to begin to fade out to the background, the very, very background. Now in stock form, this amp is over filtered and has less hum. I converted this to the JMI spec with much less filtering. There's always going to be a slight bit of hum. You can hear it lowering in the background. The tubes are warming up, common mode cancellation's taking effect. It's way behind the level of anything you play, but that lower filtering does affect the feel. And all of the three of the amps that you heard in the video that I put up yesterday have the same lower filtering. So this has the vibe trim channel. The other issues don't have it. The hand wire doesn't have tremolo at all. The custom classic and the custom just add tremolo to the normal and top boost channels with cathode bias tremolo. This has the original from JMI, which is okay. It's cool. It's got its sound. It's a little bit low in gain compared to the other channels. Actually, it's a lot low in gain compared to the other channels. That's trim. This is vibe. Notice that the trim is a little bit louder than the vibe. That popping is normal. And then it has 3 speeds. Kind of fast, slightly faster, and faster than that. If this were my amp, or if I were building this circuit for someone, instead of using a 3-position pot, I would use, a 3-position switch, I would use a 3 meg pot like Fender's, and you'd have much slower, you'd have even faster, and in between, the JMI settings would be there as well. But, you know, it is the historically correct sound. It has just enough gain to really kind of begin to get there. You really need the pedal if you want to use that for, say, What's the Frequency Kenneth, though I suspect that might have been a different amp. So that's the vibe trim channel. Now the normal channel on this amp in stock form is kind of terrible. And what I mean by that is it was not ever designed to be a guitar channel, or a guitar amp for that matter. This was designed so that JMI Industries could sell you something and you can amplify it. That may have been a bass, it may have been a keyboard, an accordion, a microphone, or a guitar. And so the normal channel is very full range, but in stock form, it's very dark. And it would sound a lot like this. Even darker than that, which do it like this. It's like the normal channel on a Marshall. Until you get the level up, it's really dull and boomy and kind of useless until you get the level up quite a bit. So what I do is I optimize this for guitar use. And I'm not doing anything wrong in terms of the JMI stuff. I'm just saying we don't need anything below about 32 hertz. So if the low E string is 82 hertz, octave below that's 41. Let's roll off everything below about 32 hertz. And that just takes a lot of the crap out of, when you brush the strings, it makes those frequencies, it gets amplified through all these stages, through the output. Can't get it through the output transformer. The speakers don't represent it. It's just wasted energy. And it makes it just really flubby, unpleasant channel to play. So I make this halfway between the normal channel in the AC30 normal version and the AC15 from that era. So it's just a very nice balanced sound. It's not bright, certainly not compared to the Top Boost Brilliant, but it's not dull. And when you get to about 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock, depending on the pickups, it gets in that in-between thing where you can do the big full cleans. If you hit it, does that thing, which is, you can hear it compress. Now the Brian May thing is a whole bunch of boosters and then other effects and a very special guitar and very special hands and brain. But in terms of what the A chord sounds like, you cannot get the Queen A chord out of a stock AC30 no matter what you do. You've got to have a treble booster at the very least. Same thing for Chasing Clapton's Beano tone with the JTM45. It's not going to get you there by itself. But it's a very cool sounding channel. A lot of people never use it because it's dark in stock form, way too dark and way too flubby. With a few changes to make this more like the AC15 in terms of where the low pass is. It becomes a really nice channel. But that's just a good sounding guitar. Some jazz with this thing, but I'm not a jazz player. We're going to revisit the normal channel just a little bit. Get to the Top Boost, and in stock form, they nailed it. They pretty much got it right out of the gate. This is what an AC30 Top Boost channel sounds like. The trouble is, in stock form, there's so much heater hum and noise injected onto the inputs, and there's ground loops and there's heater buzz and there's just all kinds of white noise added on there. It's not really pleasant to play. So you get rid of all that hum and buzz, it's great. Thinking about what I'm saying more than what I'm playing. So anyway, so the Brilliant channel on this is fine. The Brilliant channel on all of them is more or less fine, except for the Custom Classic. We'll get into that in a later video. It can be made to be fine. But what's cool about this amp is that, like the JMIs, the Top Boost and normal channels are out of phase with each other. Now, when they're out of phase, you would expect them to just do total cancellation and sound awful. But what happens is, I'm going to change to a Strat for this. The two channels have very different frequency information in them. So what is common does cancel out, but the differences get exaggerated. So the Top Boost has a lot more high end. And normal has a lot more low end. And what they have in common are mids. And the mids that they have in common are kind of the congested area. So what you get when you blend them is you get a mid-range scoop and a bass increase. So here's just I'm gonna do a big E minor, just normal, sorry, just a brilliant. Come down, you can hear that low end come up. It's kind of depend on what you listen back on. You'll hear the mids. Whether you hear the bass increase is going to depend on what speakers you're listening to. It's very reminiscent of a high watt to my ear, but it's close enough in a lot of ways to a Fender that if you have one of these and a reverb and a tremolo pedal, like a Strymon Flint, you've got a twin reverb hiding in your AC30 if the channels are out of phase. That's really nice. And like I said, only the JMIs and the TB/TBX have that. Though on the hand-wired custom and custom classic series, I can make them be out of phase, and I prefer them out of phase. It makes it a much more versatile amp. But in stock form, if you want that sound, you have to find the TB/TBX. Now, in terms of the cons, I'm going to go into some of the in-depth stuff in the follow-up video to this. But overview, it's a relatively expensive amp these days. Because they're in demand, because there's a perceived quality which I think far exceeds their actual quality level. The transformers are not the best. All the pots and jacks are mounted on a PCB board, like on a JCM 800 from the era, and they're prone to the same problems with the solder joints break. These pots have not been made in a long time. I actually have a source to get them from Omite. Is it Omega? Omite? I don't remember the manufacturer. I have a source for them, but they're getting to be hen's teeth. Has terrible ground issues, terrible hum issues with the heaters. All that's addressed in depth. I think they're a little bit overpriced, and they need quite a bit of work to be made reliable and quiet. I think the work is worth it. The other advantage, if you can find one that has the old Celestian blues, people say the blues from the 90s sound better than the ones made today. The UK blues sound better than the ones made in China. I don't know if that's true empirically. It's possible that they were better made. It's also possible that they're just 20-year-old speakers that have been played in at this point, and that makes a difference. So, caveat emptor. But if you get one of these and you have a tech follow what I'm going to show in the follow-up video, I would love it if I'm the tech you choose, but I can't fix all the amps in the world, so I'm putting it out there. At the end of the day, you have something that can hang with an actual JMI. But the price of admission can be a little bit steep.